Grad Seminar Series 2024 fall semester. Today, I'll just take a few minutes in the beginning to introduce to you a couple of items. One of them is about our new PhD degree program that we are working on the proposal. Several of of the committee members are here who are working on that proposal that we hopefully will be submitting soon for consideration for our graduate program. It's very important to have a doctoral degree program in an institution like ours because that's important for everything, for what research we do, for academics we do, for everything we do here. So I think we have talented people like Dr. Owl. He already made a seal for the program already. You see it on the left-hand side.
Oh.
See, it's Doctor of Philosophy in Food, Energy, Water, Security, Sustainability. That's what it is. And you can see with the right tools, you can develop lots of good things. So the proposal is doctoral degree philosophy in food, energy, water, security, and sustainability. These are colleagues, committee members here who are providing, who have been working on the proposal. So hopefully we have a deadline to have a proposal ready before the end of the semester for consideration. Yes.
Prof. Fairs and Prof. Awal, I don't see any goats and cows and horses and bad dogs.
No, they are hidden beside the food. They are busy eating the.
Make them visible. Thank you.
We'll make them. I mean, I think they are busy eating the grain here.
Not that. Consider that.
That's a good point. Yes, we'll do that. This is just a temporary. He just put it a few minutes ago. Good effort, Dr. Awal. So the doctor, we have a document that we are circulating. We will have we are gonna organize next week Friday. It seems based on the schedule that Dr. Adu send. We'll send exact time, but we will convene a meeting for input for the faculty as well. We already shared that the information with you on an email, but we will make sure we're gonna hold a meeting next Friday to get your input in person also and address some of your questions, etc. So we have the current capacity, the need for the program, the proposed program, what does it do? So the proposed PhD program, which will require completion of just 54 degree credit hours, and it prepare cutting-edge researcher capable of ensuring clean water availability, develop alternative energy sources, enhancing food production, etc. So working on the latest topics that are addressing the needs of the communities and the nation as a whole. So we will prepare student preparedness. We have a program of the curricula that has required courses, that has pre-elective or selective courses. We have 3 concentration of this degree program: water, energy, food. Next is the first one. Second, food, animal, and nutrition. And the third one is economics of food, water, and energy economic systems. So we have 3 concentration. So far, you can choose the concentration that fits your needs and objectives. We also have elective courses at large that the students will take from on these 3 concentrations that we talked about. And this is a summary of the program: 12 credits core courses, 9 prescribed electives, and then 9 elective, and then dissertation and research. And of course, the total 54 degree. This is just a proposal right now, and it will be finalized. But to give you an idea about this, so you think about it, we welcome your input. And we put together a couple of copies there for you to share. And we'll be happy to share with you the courses description of this one. We will have methodology, research course, statistics, research seminar, advanced research methods, prescriptive sustainability, and also, so in conclusion, the proposed doctor and the fuse to prepare transformative education opportunity for our students. It's an interdisciplinary program, critical to addition to PV's degree program, so that part of our role or part of our goal to reach the R2, R1 designation is to have more degree program at the PhD level. And also it's very timely and also appropriate for a land grant institution. With that, so we don't have time to discuss it, but as I said, stay tuned for next Friday so that you can participate on the session that we'll be organizing the committee. Can the committee raise their hands, please, to be recognized? Dr. Adu, Dr. Quinlan, Dr. Awal, and also Peter Ampem and Kidani and Dubadal. So these are the members of the committee. Welcome to the seminar. So after this brief introduction, today, as you can see, we're gonna have the second batch of students, our MS students who will be presenting their individual student presentation about their research pre-proposal. And next week, we're gonna have an introduction to a sustainable high-performance seed coating technologies. So this person is gonna be visiting us next week, so stay tuned. And also, there is an important visit by Dr. Tiferet Sagai. He's with ARS Acting Deputy Administrator, a very friend, a colleague of mine, and he's very known in the 1890. He used to be a dean and a director in Kentucky, Kentucky State, Kentucky State University. He will be visiting with us on November 7th, and encourage you to attend that seminar, interact with him. He will spend some time visiting, etc. So there are lots of opportunity that we can work with ARS on that front. They have a long-term LTAR, which is long-term agriculture research, what you call a plots across the US. So he has a lot of opportunity for collaboration that we can discuss. With that, I'd like to introduce our speakers for today. Lindsay, Joshua Lindsay, so he's has a bachelor. Can you raise your hand? He's going to be talking soon to us. He has a bachelor. He's a product of our college. Got his BS from here last year or this year, I think. This year. He's going to be presenting about algae. Next will be the first presenter, but presenting her next is Michelle Burke. She has a BS on kinesiology with a minor in health from Prairie View A&M University. She's working with Dr. Awal, Vital, and myself. The title of presentation will be Assessing the Impact of Hurricane Beryl on Healthcare Access in Harris County Minority Communities. And the third one, Gina, she has a bachelor in animal science from Prairie as well. She's working with Dr. Noel Estwick, and the title of her presentation will be Enhancing Resilience from Natural Disaster in Caribbean Agriculture. You can see natural disasters are prominent here in what we do. With that, I would like to invite our first speaker, Michelle. So she will be talking to us about her proposal. So the floor is yours.
Good morning.
Morning. Oh, by the way, there are evaluation forms here. If you can give the students your feedback, I would really highly appreciate it. It's very helpful. This is a seminar course, so we would welcome feedback for the students. What they did good and what they can improve on. It's very positive. Write your name, and if you want, it can be anonymous. You don't have to write your name, but please write the name of the student.
Good morning again. My name is Michelle Bird. I am, my presentation title is Assessing the Impact of Hurricane Beryl on Healthcare Access in Harris County's Minority Communities. So to start off, the background, for Harris County, Texas has a history of experiencing severe hurricanes and tropical storms due to its closer proximity to the Gulf Coast, the Gulf of Mexico. Hurricane Beryl that did hit early June caused significant disruptions to the health services in Harris County, Texas, particularly impacting minority communities, especially the ones that's not around any hospitals and where it flooded. So, as everyone can remember, there was the power outages, and it was during the heat wave, and over 2 million residents in Harris County lost power, with many minority communities experiencing prolonged outages. This led to severe heat-related illnesses, deaths, and due to lack of air conditioning during the heat wave, 42 lives were lost. And the storm exacerbated existing health disparities. Many residents in minority communities struggle to access medical care and essential services due to the infrastructure and power outages. Also, many healthcare centers, walk-in clinics, and specialty clinics were closed, including clinics at the LBJ campus. Again, the surrounding communities most minority communities are not close to any healthcare facilities, a big hospital where health is needed, and so or help is needed. So a lot of the hospitals were closed because the power was out, and so it had to close. So my research question is, what were the key impacts of Hurricane Beryl on health facility access for minority communities in Harris County, Texas? And what strategies can be implemented to enhance healthcare services in future disaster situations? So my goal is to evaluate the impact of Hurricane Beryl on healthcare access for minority communities in Harris County, and to identify strategies for improving healthcare services in future disasters. My objectives is to identify and analyze the specific barriers faced by minority communities in accessing healthcare facilities during Hurricane Beryl. Also, to collect and analyze feedback from minority community members regarding their experiences and challenges in accessing health services during Hurricane Beryl, and propose actionable recommendations for improving health facility access and services for minority communities in future disaster scenarios. My methodically objective 1 is to identify and analyze barriers to accessing health facilities. And that's the first part is to conduct a thorough review of existing research to identify barriers within the minority communities. Second is to execute interviews and within the community for members to gather firsthand accounts of the barriers they face. Third is to use qualitative research approach with coding techniques to systematically analyze and interview data and to identify key barriers. Lastly, descriptive statistics will summarize participants' demographics, providing essential context for understanding the barriers identified. My second methodology objective is to collect and analyze feedback from community members. So I would conduct a survey to capture different barriers to healthcare access during Hurricane Beryl. I will hold a focus group to discuss shared experience and to gain broader insights into challenges faced by the community. I would also use a mixed method approach, quantitative surveys for numbers and qualitative focus groups for personal insights. My third methodical objective is propose actionable recommendations for future improvements. I would conduct town hall meetings to community members' input on desirable healthcare access improvements during disasters. I will formulate a clear action plan based on community feedback. I would also implement a before and after comparison using paired tests or other appropriate statistical tests to measure changes in healthcare access following the introduction of recommendations. My data sources and type are the U.S. Census Bureau, the Harris County Public Health, and FEMA, and the CDC for Public Health. My expected results would be to identify disparities in healthcare access for minority communities during the hurricane, insights into how health facilities in minority neighborhoods responded to the crisis, and recommendations for improving healthcare services during future disasters. So my summary will be, this study will explore the impact of health facility access on minority communities in Harris County during Hurricane Beryl. And the findings will inform future disaster preparedness strategies to ensure equitable healthcare access during emergencies. I would like to acknowledge my advising professor, Dr. Wall, and the committee members, Dr. Ferris and Dr. Anoop Vito, for their guidance, support, and encouragement. Thank you. These are my references.
You have a couple of questions for Michelle? Go ahead, please.
Yeah, thank you, Michelle. First, a really great presentation, really clear. I liked your slides, easy to follow, so really great. So thank you. Neat idea too, and much needed. Just one or two comments. I guess a question. Do you know if there are surveys out there already that are similar? It's really hard to create a survey from scratch. So are there any surveys out there that you could use and maybe just modify to make it more specific to this?
Yes, ma'am, there are.
There are. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So you're not creating out.
No,
okay,
ma'am, I
all
would
right,
definitely use,
all right.
use those.
And then the other would just be a comment, suggestion. I don't know if this was your intention to do it in that order, but you had surveys first and focus groups second. But focus groups can really inform what goes in the surveys. So I would really recommend if you haven't, is because focus groups are, they identify those themes that we don't even know about, right?
Okay.
So they can inform questions to go into the survey that you don't think about. So I just would recommend,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you.
No, thank you again.
Any other quick question for Michelle? If you don't, we can have another opportunity at the end. Luckily, we have one here. You gotta identify yourself, please.
My name is Elizabeth and I'm an undergraduate here at Prairie View. And my question, wait, I liked your presentation because I live in Harris County. And so this is like relevant to me. And so I wanted us to know, is your survey only going to be in Houston or because Harris County is big. So is it only be in Houston area or outside of the Houston, outer Houston area?
So focusing on the minority communities. So and they are all over Houston. but there's data showing that the ones that was impacted the most. So I'll use that data. And yeah, so I can't really say which ones, but the ones with the most impact from the hurricane.
And how much money you have? That's what.
And the sample size, I didn't hear anything about sample size.
Yeah.
The
Sample
what?
sample size? How many
Your
people you gonna
sample
sample?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I'm not sure yet.
Okay, thank you. These are good
I mean, do you have any
suggestions.
suggestions about how many?
I think, go ahead, please.
6 people, about 5 different sessions,
Okay,
so that you have, enough information until you reach saturation. And the quantitative, it depends on what, they are looking at.
Mhm.
The variables that you want to, and also the tests, like.
okay.
Thank you. These are
Thank
very
you so
valuable
much.
suggestions. Please use the evaluation form to include your comments, because this is one of the reasons why we holding these pre-proposals to get feedback on how to do the research. Please, very quick go to the next one.
Just also maybe a suggestion. For the focus group discussion, I do agree. But for the entire interview, are you going to conduct interview, a kind of semi-structured interview or structured interview? How are you going to collect all the data? So in case if you are going to do the semi-structured interview or like that, it's good to use a Cochrane formula, meaning that it can represent that community.
And identify yourself, please.
My name is Alamayo Shambo, a PhD. I'm a postdoc and working with Dr. Kassan.
Thank you.
Thank
All
you
right.
all. If
Next
if you could write all that down on the,
evaluation sheet.
please, that would be great. Thank you.
Next speaker.
Hello, everybody. My name is Gianna Sorolla. This is my first semester at the Natural Resources and Environmental Science Master's Program. My research is enhancing resilience to natural disasters in the Caribbean islands, Caribbean agriculture. Okay. Today we'll be going over my introduction, current needs, goals, objectives, research question, methods, data collection, anticipated results, conclusion, references, and acknowledgements. So start to this off. This study happens is primarily in the Caribbean countries or islands, such as Virgin Islands, Jamaica, and Costa Rica. This work would specifically target Caribbean countries to improve current practices and address agricultural disasters. About 15% of the jobs for agriculture, let me start over. Okay. In the Caribbean islands, about 50% of the jobs are agriculture. And then in Jamaica specifically, 90% of the residents live in areas prone to at least 2 natural disasters, which could be either from mudslides, hurricanes, or even droughts. So some current needs that that I found would be the first would be the Climate Information System, the CIS. That is just more in-depth information. It's like a weather system, but it has more in-depth, has longer periods or shorter periods of time. And so that's useful for farmers. This was specifically in Clarendon, Jamaica. I was looking at Damar because I don't know how to say it correctly. Clarendon, Jamaica. And they were for small farmers that they had reported lower crop losses, less financial restraint, and were more likely to reinvest immediately after drought events. And then another study I found was the Caribbean Policy Development Center. In 2020, they did that a study, a focus group about 42 farmers, and they asked a whole bunch of questions. But one of the questions I really found were interesting was, did they have any previous training in disaster risk reduction? And 66% of the small farmers had no training whatsoever. And this was talking about, I would say about 65% of the farmers were older than 65 years old. So they've never had any reduction training. And so my primary goals are to enhance resilience to agricultural disasters and establish a monitoring system to evaluate the effectiveness of implementing practices and technology and enhancing resilience to future natural disasters. I will be doing this by consistent reinforcements of best practices, regular trainings, and on-ground supports for agriculture extension offices are crucial to ensure sustained impact. So there's about 6 universities that have extension programs already. And I know Prairie View does work with CASE, which is the College of Agriculture Education Science, and that's in Jamaica. And then secondly, while building resilience, it may lead to a stronger local network for support, resource sharing, and even knowledge amongst farmers. So what is my research question? My research question is, how can smart agriculture technologies be blended into limited resource farming practices to enhance the resilience in Caribbean islands or agriculture against natural disasters? So I'd be doing this by focus groups with farmers, producers, and extension agents. And then we would do that first and then get to make a summary in Qualtrics to see what they know, what they don't know, what might be more resourceful to them and what might not work for them, as well as this would be a qualitative analysis. So some of the questions I would be asking is, how many years have you been farming? How does natural disasters impact rural farmers in the Caribbean, particularly those with limited resources? If any, what training do you have for disaster risk management or mitigation? And most importantly, where are your emergency farm plans? Emergency farm plans are a big thing for farmers. That is, I would like to call it like, it's like your Bible for your farm. It tells you where are your chemicals at, what manure or what pesticides you use, where's your farming equipment, how much farming equipment you have. If you have animals, how many animals do you have, and things like that. And so my anticipated results would be consistent reinforcement of best practices, regular trainings, and ongoing support from agriculture extension officers. This is crucial to ensure sustained impactment. So that would mean we would go and just keep on a data or week to week, maybe a month to month basis, check up with them, seeing what they need, see what they think would be best for their communities, because they obviously live there, they know best. And then also building resilience, it may lead to a stronger local networking for support, resource sharing, and even knowledge amongst farmers. So this usually happens during the focus groups. I do work for Dr. Eshwick, if y'all might have missed that. And so I get to hear a lot of the focus groups that he currently has, and most of them are in the Caribbeans. And so I get to hear some farmers live maybe a mile down the road or even just a few minutes down the road. They're like, oh, I didn't know you live there. Like, what's this? Like, we're going to catch up later. Let me get your number. And then they'll start to have side conversations during the focus group, talking about what resources they have, what who they know. So it's a lot of networking for them, and it's very beneficial as well. And my conclusions, in relation to small islands and rural agricultural regions, they tend to have highlight vulnerabilities and constraints to adaptation. Ongoing education and training programs are vital to ensure the adoption of best practices and resilience building measures. And lastly, establishing credibility and monitoring system will help assess effectiveness and resilience initiatives and guide future improvements. Here are my references. I would like to acknowledge the College of Agriculture, Food, and Natural Resources, Dr. Eshwick and Dr. Carson. Thank you.
Great. Questions for Gianna, please? Gina? If you don't, okay, no problem, that's fine. Or comment, doesn't have to be question or suggestion. Thank you.
That's the problem. That's what, yeah. So thank you. Another really important area and great presentation. I think I'm going to go to the question that was raised about the last one. It's interesting. It sounds like you're already, some of the focus groups are already ongoing and the community involvement is established, if I'm understanding.
Yes, that's what Dr. Eshworth's work. And this is my own project that I kind of created for the specific class. So if need be, if I got funded, I would have at least some input and some put into that.
Okay. And so again, I go back to sample size numbers, like how many people are, to think about how many people are you going to engage? They're going to be virtual, I'm assuming. So yes, some of the details of how you'd run the focus groups.
So the pilot version is going to probably be virtual. And we would also since we do have a close connection with Chase in Jamaica, and then sorry, thank you. We do have a close connection with Case, and then also Dr. Estrick does have other ties. Thank you, Dr. Estrick. He's not here right now, but I think he's watching. It'd be very vital to let the colleges or even extension partners know that this is an option that they do have for their communities. So that's how I'd get my word out for that.
Thank you. Another question here?
Yes. I kind of like the presentation. However, you did not, I think it would have been more clarified, your presentation, if you had kind of pinned down the factors that you are building resilience against. You kind of said indirectly that you will ask the farmers their experience and what emergency management plan they have and what they do. But I think you should have enumerated the factors, pinpoint that we will build resilience against flood, against tornadoes that will come, against, for instance, drought, against this. That would have kind of clarified the presentation a little bit more. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Atai, for your suggestion and comments. So these are some of the food for thought. So these are some of the suggestions that you think about it. But let's thank our speaker for a good presentation. Thank you. Next speaker.
Done it so many times and I'm
You're live.
still getting nervous. Sorry. How y'all doing? I'm Oswald Lindsay. I'm a first-year graduate student with the NRES Master's Program here at Prairie View. And my title for my presentation, research presentation, will be Cultivating Microalgae Using Goat Manure, Wastewater, and Exploring its Biofertilizer Potential. For my outline, we'll be, of course, going through the introduction based on the research question, the study goal and the objectives, followed by with the methodology, expected results, my acknowledgements, and questions. So for sustainable agricultural practices, it's on a high demand. We're trying to do everything we can to be more efficient by exploring alternative ways to make nutrients and make crop production even more, make it bloom, right? Goat manure and wastewater and microalgal biomass can be very effective, making rich soils, making rich nutrients, making more potential resources for microalgal cultivation, and to understanding the effects of different dilution ratios of microalgal growth kinetics and biomass yield to optimize cultivational practices. Microalgae, as a solution is basically known for its rapid growth and high nutrient content, basically all around, primarily focused towards Asia. It can be very effective to utilize wastewater to improve water quality throughout nutrient absorption, because whenever algae is in the water, it absorbs CO2, reducing O2 in the process. So it's like a cleanser for any emissions or greenhouse gases that are emitted into the water, making it unsanitary. So the research questions that I have for this are: what are the characteristics of goat manure wastewater, and how do various dilution levels affect the biomass yield and nutrient uptake in microalgae? What are the most effective process techniques and optimal cultural conditions for treating gum manure wastewater to enhance its sustainability as a growing medium for microalgae? And my last question is, can the biomass produced from microalgae grown in gum manure wastewater serve as a high-value biofertilizer? And how does its nutrient composition compare to traditional fertilizers? All right, so the goal is ultimately to investigate sustainability for gum manure wastewater for growing microalgae and its potential to be a more essential biofertilizer. The objectives, of course, to absorb the key nutrient constituents, 2% gum manure wastewater, and to investigate how different dilution ratios of gum manure wastewater affect the growth of kinetics and biomass yield in algae. We're going to identify the dilution levels to maximize algae growth and the nutrient absorption to enhance overall wastewater treatment efficiency. And lastly, we're going to investigate the effects of microalgae biomass and nutritional fertilizers on plant growth parameters. That will be including the yield, biomass production, and the psychological performance for the experimental setup. Okay. So the key to nutrient constituents and the effects for dairy solutions of gum manure wastewater will be the growth of kinetics and biomass yields. So to follow the steps methodology, we'll start off with wastewater characterization. Of course, we'll collect the gum manure wastewater samples and we're going to analyze the nutrient composition of it, which includes such as nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, and organic matter. And this will be through a standard method of testing through APHA. The dilution preparation will be through dilution levels of wastewater using distilled water. And based on the percentage range, if it is either too high or too low, it will limit how much effective biofertilizer will be produced to actually benefit the plant that is being experimented on. And microalgae cultivation, it will allocate selected microalgae species into the prepared dilution levels and controlled photobioreactors, maintaining optimal temperatures, light intensity, and aeration. So these are outside sources that we got to take into consideration as well. Continuing the methodology, monitoring growth kinetics. So with this, we're going to measure the growth of microalgae through optical density, or OD, which will be chlorophyll contents and cell count at regular intervals. The biomass yield assessment is basically the growth period. We're going to go through the centrifugation, filtration of dry measure of the yield. And data analysis is basically the relationship between dilution levels, which would be the growth, and the biomass yields. So for the experimentation that we have going on, it'll be through, we'll be using tomatoes for the experiment to be using the biofertilizer. So it'll be experimented, of course, in the greenhouse with all the plants. Of course, we're preparing the soil plots to ensure that the soil composition is uniform. We'll be divided into different treatments. We'll be using the microalgae biomass fertilizer with other traditional fertilizers as well to compare the differences. And right there, we'll control the groups that have no fertilizer at all. For the application of itself, it'll be in predetermined doses of microalgae biomass with traditional fertilizers as well. And so we can base the nutrient composition equivalency. Tomato seedlings will be placed in each pot, and we'll be ensuring that environmental conditions with light, temperature, humidity, and watering through every experiment are thought out. With growth monitoring, of course, that's going to ensure and let us know how effective it is towards the plant's height, the leaf area, the chlorophyll content using SPAT meter or a sensor, and the growth parameters at every regular interval. The biomass and yield assessment for the harvest will measure the total biomass, which would be the fresh or the dry weight. It will shoot the root shoot ratio and crop yield for each trimming group. And lastly, the data collection analysis will basically just be collecting the data on the growth with the yield, with the psychological performance and parameters. So what are the expected results? So the expected results for this will be basically two things: nutrient composition and dilution effects. So we'll know that gum manure wastewater will reveal key nutrition constituents such as nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium for NPK. Other trace elements will be very beneficial towards microalgae growth. Various solution levels for wastewater will show distinct impacts on microalgae growth, kinetics, and biomass yield. The second thing will be microalgae biomass as the fertilizer itself. So we expect there to be a positive effect on plants, especially towards the growth parameters, surpassing traditional fertilizers that are basically used in farms now, increasing the yield, biomass production, and physiological performance. The microalgae biofertilizer itself will improve plant nutrient uptake efficiency. It will enhance health soil, and it will contribute to sustainable agricultural practices as well. The study may demonstrate that the microalgae biomass can serve as a high value alternative to conventional fertilizers with comparable and superior effectiveness. For my acknowledgements, I'd like to thank Dr. Ali Ferris and Dr. Rahman. And if you have any questions, thank you.
Questions, comments, suggestions for our speaker? And Dr. Atai is the first.
Okay, I really enjoyed listening to you. You have a very good comprehensive research proposal or research plan. The only thing that I kind of would like to draw your attention, be mindful about a lot of variables. You had a lot of variables to have under control while you're performing your experiment and collection of data. Otherwise, it's a very good comprehensive study. I'm glad you're planning something like that.
Thank you.
Okay, there is nothing to respond to. Go ahead.
Oh, no, thank you. Thank you. No, thank you.
Unless you have, I mean.
No, thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. Very nice. One quick question. Why did you select tomato versus another crop that grows in the wintertime?
I mean, well, that was like, well, it wasn't really a thought out. Wasn't really thought out, but basically what to choose. It was just like right there at the moment, specifically since we're going at the greenhouse. And since tomato with its components being toxicity and how it's going to be used effectively towards the goat manure wastewater, it does show promise. So it does show promise in the past because it was done in the past. So we're just trying to like, I'm basically just trying to like rebuild it back up, see if I can actually like follow through with it.
So you're using previous studies to substantiate whether you can form this biofertilizer from.
Right, because it's basically something that I was just like sorry about. I was never really like followed through. So I'm just.
So you started growing the tomatoes, right?
In the past, yes, ma'am.
You have.
In the past, yes, ma'am.
Well, I think he didn't tell that the tomato tastes better than lettuce, for example. But I think it's worth thinking about it. What Dr. Carson mentioned, you may want to use a lettuce, for example, which basically a short growing season, right? And it's not as photosensitive as tomatoes. So I think you may want to think about what you would like to do. And we have a question from Miriam, right? Introduce yourself, please, as well.
Thank you very much. I'm Miriam, a chemistry graduate student working with Dr. Carson. I have a couple of questions for you. First of all, thank you for your nice presentation. My question is, why did you focus on the goat manure? Why don't you use other livestock manures? And the second one is, which type of microalgae do you use? Is that a blue-green algae or the other? Which kind of species do you gonna use? Thank you.
So it's primarily focused on goat manure. Primarily since we got the goat farm, it is shown that goat manure is more effective. Well, it's either goat manure or poultry, right? But we just want to stick with goat because that's more effective than anything else. For the algae itself, it's primarily used for green algae ever since I was back here in summer 23, whenever we first started the algae center, and we primarily focus on green algae right there itself. So it's just like whatever the farm has, that's basically like what I used.
By the way, he was one of the other 5 students who started the first course of algae growth, agronomy for algae, summer 2023. So I think one important thing for consideration of goat algae we produce goats here. So we would like to show that another way of input or basically economic return from goat production is how to use that wastewater into producing something valuable. So it's a value added, if my economics term are correct, Dean D'Souza, to the a goat production that you can make it more profitable. So that's one of the reasons for growing for using goat manure. Any other comments? Yes. Oh, you mentioned you're gonna have a question.
I was gonna ask the same thing as her, but instead I was gonna say, why not use sheep since they like goats and like sheep, they both poop out pellets like the same. So I know that we have goats, but like I was gonna say maybe try it alternative with sheep is what I was gonna say. And is there anything that makes goat manure anything different than sheep?
It's primarily how it's been used in the past as whatever is left over for the nutrient decomposition. Because goat pellets primarily, they don't take as long because it is smaller. So the smaller the pellet, the faster it will be for it to decompose and get the nutrients as a fertilizer. So, and like I said too, like I basically volunteer at the goat center sometimes. So it was just like right there. But yeah.
Again,
Yeah.
So she's suggesting to maybe get some manure, sheep manure from another location such as College Station, etc. I think for an MS degree program, if he does what he proposed to do, is going to keep him busy for his MS degree program. But maybe if he decides to go for PhD, which hopefully by that time will be ready, then you may want to consider as well sheep. So you have another proposal to think about it.
Right.
You have 2 years to go to think about it.
Yes, sir.
But another question or comment for him? If not, let's thank him first. No. I think we have a question online. Sorry, I misspoke. So, and you can read that question is how many seedlings are in controlled and uncontrolled maybe treatments? What Ms. Radman mentioned here, or tried to say, how many?
Are they going based on like how many are like potted in between per the different?
I think if I understand the question correct is how many plants are you going to use for each treatment?
Okay, so basically it's literally sectioned out. So basically, of course, we're gonna use the actual manure wastewater with the microalgae treatment, and then of course the different traditional fertilizers. So I don't know the specific number we have lined up, but it does go by rows, and I don't know what I'm looking at for camera.
Yes.
Yeah, but it goes by rows and columns. So I don't know if that would like answer your question.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's you answered it well. I think, as you know, when we do statistics, we have to replicate. So in each treatment, you have to have at least 3 replicates of the same treatment. So you can, the more the better, but of course, economically is very important. It's going to cost you more as you replicate more. So, but at least you need to have 3 replicates of the same treatment per treatment. So for like 0 fertilizer, you have to have a 3 replication. It can be 3 plants, can be 4 plants, which is better always to have more than just 2 or 3, because you never know, one of the plants decide to die or have something happen to it. So at least you will have enough plants to sample from for that particular treatment. So these are some of the good questions that you need to discuss and need to think about for your research, so that you can have a successful research. You have another question? Oh, so answered. Any other question for him or for the rest of the students? Because we still have a few minutes left.
So just, this isn't for you, you're off the hook. I'll transition for you. So this is just a comment. So thank you for all of you. For those of you that presented last week, I was listening online. I just make a general comment. I know you're in the early stages of this research. And so I think you really want to think about what one thing can I do well and publish? So some of these are really large for 2-year master's programs. For instance, just a couple of you talking about focus group surveys, blah, blah, blah. One good focus group project done correctly is very publishable and very valuable and takes about 2 years so and survey development is an art and a science, and it's not so as you're doing these, and I'm not as familiar with how much work is involved in goat pellets and microalgae, but I'd say, look at where do you want to publish and what's that paper going to look like, and start to really design. So I know you didn't give us a lot of methodology and specifics today just because of the early stages of it, but think about that and think about the end point of a publication before, you start to just collect data, because a lot of data doing not as much isn't publishable.
I think that's excellent, and thank you for sharing that, because we do research not for the sake of doing research. You do research so that it can be publishable, and more importantly, it can be applied and answer a question for the community that we are serving. For example, if you tell the farmers, I did this great research, what does it mean to me? So if I'm growing tomatoes or lettuce or whatever, using algae, what's your research valuable to me? So you need to keep that in mind whatever we are doing research, applied research, that we are trying really to answer a question and to help the people who are the stakeholder who are interested on or impacted by that particular work. So keep that in mind always. And one important thing is like economics. It has to be always economically viable. Otherwise, it will be not practical, right? So it has to be economically viable. Keep that in mind as well. So any other question, comments? Yes, please.
For those of you students that's doing survey research, we have the best model in the world. And that is, we have our extension that can reach so many counties in the state of Texas. And so I would consider adding them to your committee so they can really help you focus in on some of that data.
Yeah, I agree. That's a very valuable suggestion because impact, your research will be impacting people. Guess what? Extension are working and impacting people's life. So you connect with them. And they might give you a question about practical question that the farmers really need an answer. So yeah. Well, if nobody else has any question, let's do you have any question for the last week's students? They are here and they are ready. So if you missed the opportunity last week, I think I'm very pleased to see undergraduate students present here. Also, some colleagues, students from other colleges. We like that. So please encourage our graduate students, engage with them. This is just sound. Now you know what they are working on. I think challenging them when you see them in the hallway, hi, yeah. What about your research? Can you give me an update of what you did? So I think encouraging them will be very, very helpful. So let's keep that in mind. Our Dean, do you have anything to say, please?
Please. So, speaking of graduate students, we do have what is called a Graduate Student Association on campus, or it's called a GSO. And as it turns out, the president just happens to be here. And so Poppy Johnson is the president of, I believe it's called GSO. So she also is an employee of the college. So I make sure that I hire key people very strategically so that we can address all of the issues needed, including by graduate students.
Yeah, and I think she was featured on the main page of the university this week, I guess. I saw the comment of the president. Yes.
So, shameless plug while we're here. The Graduate Student Association is hosting thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. So I'll just do a shameless plug. Hello, everybody. I'm Poppy. I do work in the College of Ag as the Community Services Coordinator, but like the Dean said, I am the president of the Graduate Student Association.
we are hosting our first fundraiser throughout the homecoming season. It's ending on October 31st. And we were reposted by Big PVAMU today, backing our fundraiser. So we're really excited about that. I will send out the links to you all if you want to. We're selling tumblers, we're selling coffee and things like that to just, again, pour funds into the graduate student community, because we want to make sure that we can raise money for scholarships, professional development, different award ceremonies and things like that that we'll be hosting in the spring. So I'm just excited to be here. Glad to hear about all the research and work. I know graduate students, and we do a lot for not only ourselves, but for our university as well. So thank you.
A point of information that Lindsay's advisor is Dr. Atikur Rahman. So I'm part of there, but it's his, and he's not here, but he's working with him on the algae project. So, okay, with that, thank you. Have a good day.
Oh, and graduate students, can we get a group photo for the Instagram page?